Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Luke, chapters 19 through 21.
And it's a lot easier to say Luke than the life of Adam and Eve to Electric Boogaloo, the Apocalypse of Moses.
Yeah, you know what? I'd have to agree with you there.
Yes.
It is a lot easier to say Luke. Although the former is far more interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, we're about to read more Jesus stuff.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. Good old Jesus stuff. And apparently for this one, I don't know why they do this, but like they have the chapter split in half basically. So like
There has to be some reason for it.
there must be, right? Otherwise it's just mean.
Tradition.
It's just mean. Okay, so like in
Even
this
if the
multi-volume
reason
work,
is that it was cheaper to ship with that page layout.
yeah, like I would have preferred like the whole chapter in here. Like this is
Anyone would have.
yeah. So like I don't know why they're doing that, because this is just the first what covers the first 27 verses of Luke 19, and then volume 3 covers the rest of them.
Yeah. So volume 3 is the last volume, right?
Yeah, for Luke.
Good. Because I'm getting sick of Luke.
You're going to
Yeah.
love John, mostly because it's the end of that arc of us repeating these 4 stories.
Well, you're supposed to start with John.
yeah.
Yeah, so
we
we'll start
know.
with John.
And then we'll finally get to where we were supposed to start. Amazing.
I mean, to be honest, John is probably the most popular.
It is because of John 3:16.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I would say that's definitely true.
I wonder, I mean, you're a religious studies guy. Throughout history, what periods have different gospels been the most popular gospel?
Yeah, that's a cool question.
I don't know.
You should figure it out.
That's all.
It
I'll
would
work
be
on
relevant to your
It
interests.
would be.
I'm
It
gonna
would be.
look at
Yeah.
it. It's more of an information science thing.
That okay. You'll have fun googling.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Bing to spite you. It's not going to work.
Duck, duck, go.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what do you have to say for yourself, Lawrence? What do you have to say about chapter 19?
Okay.
Well,
Well,
I think
I mean,
there's gonna
I
be-
have to say that I'm using the King James version of the Bible.
I have to say that I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
Well, I have to say that I have the Jewish Annotated New Testament and the NIV Study Bible.
Well, I must say that I have from the Hermenius series, commentary and translation on Luke, from Francois Bovon.
Well, verily I say unto you that I have Eerdman's commentary on the Bible and the New King James.
Wow. Well, in that case, I must implore that I have the Greek text of the New Testament and a textual guide to the Greek New Testament.
Forsooth, I say that I have the text of the New Testament by Bruce Metzger and, verily, the Historical Jesus in Context by Amy Jill Levine, among others.
And those are the books that we have for you.
And the Oxford Companion to the Bible.
We don't talk about the Oxford
And
Companion to the Bible.
Josephus.
What? Yeah, we also have the complete works of Josephus.
Yeah. Anyways, you were saying about chapter 19.
And aside from how weirdly it is laid out in the commentary,
Yeah.
so yeah, it looks like we're gonna have a guy in a tree today.
That's terrible.
But it seems I think it's gonna end well. Remember that?
How often does that end well?
Not that often, but remember that dude in the Old Testament who was like riding a horse away.
Oh, yeah. And then
And he got caught in a tree.
Yeah. And that killed him.
Yeah. Who was that dude again? It started with an A.
It wasn't Balaam.
No.
Was it Ahimelech? No, I don't think so.
Is it like Ab something? I don't.
Absalom?
Yeah, was it Absalom? I think it was Absalom.
Might have been. I
Yeah,
know it was in Judges, right?
I don't know if it was in Judges
Was
it was
in
part of the
Kings.
Deuteronomistic history. That's for sure. I think it was Absalom, though.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure because I remember.
well, he was the one who had the talking donkey, right? And then the donkey keeps running.
Did he have a talking donkey?
One of them had a talking donkey.
That would be Balaam.
Yeah, Balaam had a talking donkey.
Yeah, but this is a different guy.
If anyone knows who
If anyone remembers,
got slapsticked to death,
I'm
in the Bible,
pretty sure it was Absalom. I want to say it was Absalom.
might have been Absalom. Anyways,
I can only tell you one thing from my crappy search, which, I want to tell you before you read, because otherwise it was a waste. Yeah, but the Gospel of Matthew was the most popular in the 2nd and 3rd century, as far as we know.
Okay.
And then it went to John, and there you go.
All right, great.
it's been John ever since.
Enjoy.
Yeah, this John guy. We'll talk about him.
yeah. Once we get to him.
Yeah, right now we're talking about Luke. Anyways, chapter 19. Anything more? You want to expound some brilliance?
I'm good.
No, got really nothing on this specifically.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Incredible. Chapter 19. And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. And behold.
Behold! We have a very early behold.
Yes, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich.
So good old rich tax collector.
Yeah, Zacchaeus. Let me see if there's anything about this. So Jericho is a custom center. Zacchaeus, a Greek form of a name from the Hebrew for righteous or upright, as in Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai.
Yeah, so even if there are some Christian families in Cyprus bearing the name Zacchaeus, the name Zacchaeus is a Semitic one. Its bearer must have been Jewish. According to its etymology, the name bears the name means the pure one or the innocent one.
Yeah. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way.
So
he's like, I want to see this Jesus guy, and
but
then
I'm too short.
He runs up a tree so that he can see him.
Yep, that is what's happening.
Oof. That's the difference between 6 feet and 5'11".
And it looks like, this is kind of the whole, search and you will find sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And he ran before and climbed into a sycamore tree. Okay. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. Wow.
That's, okay.
Great.
I guess, but since he was so happy to see him at all, I guess he wouldn't mind that.
Yeah. And he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was gone to be a guest with a man that is a sinner. Of course, because he's a tax collector.
Yeah, and but on the other hand, he did, seek and find Jesus, I guess, right? He was trying to see him, and then he did.
Yeah. He once was lost, but now he's found. Anyways, and Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, Behold!
Behold!
Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold. And Jesus said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house, for as much as he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. So, he says that'll pay back. Zacchaeus is less repenting than he is attesting to his own righteousness. Right. As for 4 times, see Exodus 22:1 on making restitution for a theft.
Yeah. So 4 times as much, moreover, could have been dictated by the reference to a single isolated commandment in the law of Moses, but was more probably suggested by a rule of Roman law, whose use could have spread in the fiscal administration of the procuratorial province of Judea, where these events took place. Nevertheless, the text puts less stress on the respective laws than on Zacchaeus' generosity.
Yes. Now, a couple of things about these verses, what Jesus says, this day is salvation come to this house, for as much as he also is the son of Abraham, for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. 2 things. First of all, son of Abraham means he's a true Jew, not only of the lineage of Abraham, but also one who walks in the footsteps of Abraham's faith. Jesus recognized the tax collector as such, though Jewish society excluded him. And for the latter statement there, it's a key verse in Luke's gospel, apparently. It's very important to Luke.
Okay.
That for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost.
Yeah.
And as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable, because he was nigh to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of God should immediately appear. He said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, Occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him and sent a message after him, saying, We will not have this man to reign over us. And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds. And he said unto him, Well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Lord, behold!
Behold!
Here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou layedst not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow. And he saith,
that was, like, I know that's just what happens in the KJV, but, like, that was not clear.
Yeah.
So that was, I just was looking at it. That was verse 21, right? For I was afraid of you because you are a harsh man. You take away what you did not deposit and reap what you did not sow.
Yeah. So basically, he's like, you didn't do this work. I did this work. Right? So what they're talking about is this nobleman. He goes into this country to receive for himself a kingdom. Well, the NIV Study Bible translates this as to have himself appointed king. Which is a rather unusual procedure, but the Herods did just that when they went to Rome to be appointed rulers over the Jews. Similarly, Jesus was soon to depart and in the future is to return as a king. During his absence, his servants are entrusted with their master's affairs. For the money here, this is 10 minas. 1 talent equaled 60 minas, and a mina equaled 100 drachmas, each drachma being worth about a day's wages. Thus, the total amount,
that's a good amount,
yeah, the total amount was valued at between 2 and 3 years' average wages, and a tenth would be about 3 months' wages. This was small, however, compared to the amounts mentioned in the parable recorded in Matthew. Here, all 10 are given the same amount. So that is noteworthy, in case you cared about the money being involved here. Anyways, so he's like, oh, thou takest up that thou layest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow.
Yeah.
Wonderful language. And he saith unto him, out of thine own mouth will I judge thee, thou wicked servant. Thou knewest that I was an austere man, taking up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow. Wherefore then gavest not thou my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required mine own with usury?
Yeah, so the master took his third servant at his word, or his third slave. The word is often the same, but it's usually translated as slave. So the master took his third servant at his word. He was going to judge the servant according to what the servant himself had said, without invalidating the assessment of the situation. If the master was considered to be strict, he would be strict, which does not mean that he was unfair. In a certain sense, we get the God we deserve, or that we decide to have. If you, quote, if you take me for a master of applying rules strictly, the master asked, ironically, why didn't you wise up? Although he remained the same person, he changed his nature because of how the third servant acted and decided to punish him. We're now dealing with the doctrinal level. Although the servant remained the same person, he too changed. His first assessment of his master was limited and partial, but not incorrect. By drawing the wrong conclusion from this assessment, this servant turned into a wicked servant. Now we are at the practical level. The first two servants acted in a climate of confidence. Even in a climate lacking confidence, the third servant could have acted correctly. The first two could be said to side with Paul, quote, I do not nullify the grace of God. But the third servant should have said, in the spirit of the same apostle, quote, whoever does the work of the law will live by them.
Yeah. Now, interesting here that he insists that he should have gained the money through usury by putting it in the bank. Given the laws that are in place against usury charged to other Jews.
Yeah.
And presumably, it doesn't say that this is a Jew, right? It says it's a certain nobleman.
Yeah.
And he does go to a far country to receive a kingdom.
Yeah.
But this far country, we're not sure what it is, where it is.
No, it's just
and how
vague.
this might interact with the law.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And he said unto them that stood by, take from him the pound, and give it to him that hath 10 pounds. And they said unto him, Lord, he hath 10 pounds. For I say unto you, that unto every one which hath shall be given, and from him that hath not, even that he hath shall be taken away from him. But those mine enemies which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither, and slay them before me.
So, the oldest interpretation of the parabolic story is that of the Valentinians, even though the outline of it cannot be sketched with precision. It appears to have used as a hermeneutical criterion the oft-quoted saying attributed to Jesus, quote, be experienced money changers. In this dialogue with Trypho, Justin Martyr combines this story with the parable of the sower. The money that was handed over stands for the word of God that is to be disseminated. The servant who knew how to invest represents Christians who witness to their faith, and the master who awaits a reckoning of the accounts is the Lord at his return. So, very early interpretation there.
So here there are a couple of things, one in Eerdmans, one in the Study Bible. The first one in the Study Bible is these enemies of mine, kill them. This is perhaps a reference to Jerusalem's destruction in 70 AD. The punishment of those who rebelled and actively opposed the king was much more severe than that of the negligent servant. Right? But in Eerdmans, they offer this. The parable challenged the ancient reader. Its final vengeance offends the modern one. We in the first world like to live our prosperous lifestyles, ignoring the lethal costs to people in the 2/3 world and to the Earth's environment, but we are squeamish about the direct slaughter of anyone. Luke's eschatology, however, does include a final judgment. The traditional interpretation of the parable assumes that it corrects a false opinion in 1911 that Luke is opposing some Christians' expectations of Jesus' imminent return. Johnson points out, however, that Luke's readers did not expect the narrative to include Jesus establishing the kingdom when he rode into Jerusalem, and further, that if Luke was downplaying the importance of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem as king, he made a mess of it. Further, the nobleman in Luke's parable does not delay a long time before returning as king. Instead, Johnson interprets the parable allegorically in the context of Luke's narrative. The nobleman is Jesus, who will immediately be acclaimed king, and who will grant authority to his servant followers. The fellow citizens who do not wish to have Jesus as king are the leaders of the people. The parable confirms the correct expectation in its introduction in 1911. The parable is then primarily an exhortation to church leaders. The emphasis falls on the third slave, who is afraid and inactive. The 12 and the crowd had been listening to this, which must refer at least to the story of Zacchaeus, but in the context of Luke's narrative, it more probably refers to all Jesus' many sayings, Q and L, on the journey beginning in 951. One primary audience for which has been precisely church leaders. The church leaders have Jesus' teachings as a bank deposit. Luke's exhortation is then similar to 2 Timothy 1:7 through 8. For God did not give us a spirit of cowardice. Do not be ashamed then of the testimony of our Lord. Also 2 Timothy 2:24. The Lord's slave must be an apt teacher. So, those are just some details on what we have just read in this parable. Anyways, we are now moving on to the rest of the chapter.
Now you can go to the actual volume 3.
And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending up to Jerusalem. Probably up Mount of Olives to Jerusalem, or up the mountain that's actually part
for the
of
procession.
Jerusalem. Yeah.
I'm guessing.
And it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples. So, yeah, he's going up the Mount of Olives, saying, Go ye into the village over against you, in the which at your entering ye shall find a colt tied, whereon yet never man sat. Loose him and bring him hither. And if any man ask you, Why do ye loose him? Thus shall ye say unto him, Because the Lord hath need of him.
Yeah, so this is the same story that we got before, where they basically just steal a donkey.
Yeah, heist.
Yeah.
And they that were sent went their way, and found even as he had said unto them. And as they were loosing the colts, the owners thereof said unto him, Why loose ye the colt? And they said, The Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and they cast their garments upon the colt, and they sat Jesus thereon.
Yeah, just, replaying the whole theft thing.
Yeah, the owners now are in front, and they're like, What are you doing?
Yeah.
Hey, stop it.
Yeah,
You're
that is
stealing
mine.
our colts.
Yeah, like, I own that.
So yeah, now they're setting up their garments on this colt, which of course is a kingly thing. You set up the fine raiment for them to sit on when they sit on the horse. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven, and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. So basically like, hey, if they didn't say anything, the earth itself would be affirming what they're saying.
Yeah, so in contrast to what happens in Mark and Matthew, the multitude plays no great role. So obviously, as we just read, that is the Pharisees who intervene. So Jesus, he states the situation is extraordinary. It deserves to be taken seriously. If the disciples were forced to keep silent, the stones would cry out. Luke, for whom stones are symbols of death and silence, had already had John the Baptist say that the all-powerful God could raise children of Abraham from these stones. Here he puts a similar affirmation on Jesus' mouth, an affirmation that has been interpreted in different ways. The prophet Habakkuk speaks of stones and beams that in a crisis or a tragic event could speak. If the sinner continues his evil deeds, the evil will come back on him. Quote, indeed, the stone in the wall will cry out, and the rafter in the framework will answer him. That's Habakkuk 2:11. If I understand it correctly, the house refuses to carry out the criminal intentions of the evil person. Thus, the stone and the beam rebel by speaking the truth and by bearing witness to God's judgment.
Yeah, I also want to note here that when he's coming into the city, these people are giving this blessing. They say, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Mm-hmm. Two things here. This is a combination of Psalm 118:26, part of the Hallel prayer, and Zechariah 9:9. And for the highest heaven, peace in the highest, glory in the highest, rather. By the Hellenistic period, heaven was understood as having multiple levels, as we've seen in various Apocrypha and Pseudepigrapha.
Yes, we have, which we've covered on our show, which if you're not watching every Friday, you should be, because, hey, we talk about the many layers of heaven and apparently the many worlds that God created before. Like, there's a lot of crazy shit in those apocryphal texts.
Yes.
Gotta love them.
Yeah.
Anyways, let me continue on here.
Yeah, I just want to know one thing here. So as far as interpretation goes, in his commentary on the Diatessaron was Tatian's attempt at a unified gospel. So he took all four of the gospels, stuck them together into one big story to unify them.
That's a great name.
The Diatessaron?
Yeah. It sounds like some kind of unholy book of magic spells.
I guess it does, but it's very much not. So in his commentary on the Diatessaron, Ephraim of Syria expresses the opinion that the disciples' praise was interrupted at Jesus' death. Then it was the stones that praised Jesus by delivering up the dead they had contained. With reference to Matthew 27:51-53. Oh yeah, that's the whole zombie thing, I think. Yeah. Along with this literal interpretation, Ephraim is also familiar with a figurative one. The stones that cry out represent the Gentiles who have come to faith. 2 centuries later, James of Sarug rejoices at the praise in the mouth of the disciples, whom he compares with children, which is very common. Then he connects the stones that could have cried out with a great thunder. Doubtless, with the thunder of the crowd, with thunder the crowd thinks it hears, according to John 12:29. So you got to love those reinterpretations through other texts.
I wonder what the apologetic is for stealing the donkey.
Me too.
There's very clearly a law against it.
I mean, that is theft. So like just very pure and simple. So I guess the apologetic would be it's God and it's okay because he would not be subject to the same rules. That's my guess.
Oh, right. But he's not the one who steals it.
Right. He tells people to go steal it. That's right.
Yeah.
Which, I guess telling people to go sin, it wasn't really seen as that much of a bad thing. Because they had the whole exile. The whole purpose of that was like he was telling, because the Israelites had sinned so much, God sent the Babylonians to go pay that price.
Well, then I guess we have an answer for the Euthyphro dilemma in Christianity, right?
Oh my God! Hold on. I remember
so
the Euthyphro dilemma.
Says, "Are things good because the gods love them, or do the gods love them because they're good?"
Right.
Well, obviously, God doesn't love them because they're good. There's no objective morality within the Christian sphere, because Jesus commands them to go commit theft.
Yeah.
Now, he obviously wants them to, so the act is good because Jesus wants it.
Yeah.
Not because he doesn't want it because it's good.
Right.
So there you go. There's the Christian answer to the Euthyphro dilemma.
I think it would be interesting to we do have Christian viewers, so like if they want to leave their answer to that in the comments, that'd be pretty interesting to read through.
Certainly.
Also, at some point, I'll probably ask a Pen Guy about it too.
Pen Guy's doing podcasts now.
I heard, yeah, he told me that.
I told him he should be on ours, and he asked me when it is, and then never got back to me.
Yeah, okay. So you know how we have those cards made, like yeah. He keeps asking me for new ones because he keeps like either losing them or misplacing them or even just throwing them away. I don't know, but he keeps asking for new ones. So like he's not exactly the most organized person, but
got those pens.
He has those pens. That's true.
Like I think he is the most organized person. Have you seen his pens?
Those pens specifically are very organized.
Yeah, that's about all I can say.
Anyways. And when he was come near, he beheld.
We have beheld shirts as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The city, and wept over it, saying, "If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee around, and keep thee in on every side." Oh my God. I bet Christians use this as evidence that Jesus predicted World War I.
Wow.
In the trench warfare.
Oh my God.
Maybe.
So hold up. What verse was the trench thing?
43. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee.
Oh no, yeah. So because 43, because days will come upon you when your enemies will raise up a rampart around you and surround you and will press you from all sides.
Well, that happens.
So that sounds like
Anything.
That sounds specifically like the destruction of Jerusalem.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, we have had probable reference to the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD.
Yeah, and here's also a thing. It sounds like even more specifically, it sounds like the destruction of the first temple, because remember, like the city itself never actually went down.
That's
because
right.
It was saved.
That's right.
They were pressed at all sides. I think so, if I'm remembering properly. But they didn't go down.
Right.
So I'm definitely looking through some of this. So a description of the siege of Jerusalem follows. Fucking told you. Her enemies surprise her by building a palisade. This machinery makes it impossible. Actually, get through verse 44.
I'm about to.
Okay.
"And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation."
Yeah. So as already pointed in the chat, Titus 70 CE. So this machinery makes it possible to surround the city and to press it on all sides. The description is brief. It appears to be inspired by a scripture, in particular by Isaiah 29:3 in the Septuagint. And I, like David, will encircle you and will raise a palisade around you and set up towers around you. Luke, who doubtless is familiar with the siege of Jerusalem by Titus in 70, prefers the biblical language over historical reporting. Speaking of the future, as seen by Jesus, he dispenses with details and precise descriptions. If verse 43 describes the siege of the city, verse 44 tells of its capture with two common elements, the fate of the inhabitants and the destiny of the buildings, which we've gotten before in other Gospels, especially like the stones thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. And he went into the temple and began to cast out them that sold therein and them that bought.
Oh, yeah. So kind of throws together those scenes that were, I think they were separate, right, in earlier Gospels.
I'm not sure. Now, Mark 11:11 through 17 makes clear that this cleansing occurred the day after the triumphal entry, i.e. on Monday of Passion Week. It does not say here. Let me check in here. Because they're selling for sacrificial offerings. Because Luke does not specify the reason for the vendors, the text can suggest venal activity.
Yeah, I mean, aside from that reference in Mark, unfortunately, I don't see another citation. But I can swear we've already, because we had the story where Jesus goes into the temple and find like table flips everything, right?
Yeah.
And we have also had the story of him going like this. It will fall, right? He's prophesizing the fall of the temple.
And multiple reasons for this. One is that, I mean, obviously they've turned the temple into a marketplace, right? Which is what a lot of people point to. But moreover, they're exchanging with Roman coins. And those
give to Caesar what is Caesar's was literally about the coins. I like that.
And the Roman coins literally have a proclamation of Caesar being a god. Them. So you don't want that in the temple, obviously, because that's literal idolatry being introduced into the temple grounds.
That's not good.
Moreover, when they purchase animals for sacrifice, they're not guaranteed that they're actually fulfilling the sacrificial laws because they don't know that this is the most unblemished animal, that it was born at this time of year.
Yeah.
And moreover,
they can't guarantee that.
Yeah. They deal with the first animals born in the year, right? So, like, if you go there and you sell more than one animal of the same kind, because this is how they do their taxonomy, kinds.
Yeah, right, kinds, yeah. Their taxonomy in big quotes.
Yeah. Well, if you're selling multiple animals of the same kind, then you're probably pretty much guaranteeing that these are not animals that are suited for sacrifice because they don't meet the requirements.
Yeah, and like the thing is, they would be like kind of, people wouldn't be able to tell necessarily, like depending on like the age of the animal, right? They wouldn't necessarily be able to tell. Like they could be like around the same age.
Yeah, there's no way for you to know.
Yeah.
So he throws them out, saying unto them, It is written, My house is the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And he taught daily in the temple. But the chief priests and the scribes and the chief of the people sought to destroy him, and could not find what they might do, for all the people were very attentive to hear him. So their assassination attempt is not going to be successful because he's being watched all the time by people. Right. And that is the end of chapter 19. If you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, neighbors, publicans, republicans.
Guys who like to climb up trees. Mm-hmm. I think they'd really enjoy it. Like they got really nothing better to do up there, right?
Yeah. Spider-Man. Spider-Woman.
Spider-Gwens. All right.
Venoms.
Especially Venoms, yeah. All right. So let's hop into chapter 20, shall we?
Let it be so.
Okay. One day, as Jesus was teaching the people in the temple and preaching the gospel, the chief priests and the scribes with the elders came up and said to him,
Hold on.
"Oh,
The events of 20, verse 1 through 21, verse 36, all occurred on Tuesday of Passion Week, a long day of controversy. Now, when it says one day, this is not specified, but Mark's parallel accounts indicate that this day, Tuesday, followed the cleansing of the temple on Monday, which followed the triumphal entry on Sunday."
Got it.
all right. So anyways, here's what they said to him. "Tell us by what authority you do these things, or who it is that gave you this authority." He answered them, "I also will ask you a question."
Wait, when they ask, who gave you this authority, they asked the same thing of John the Baptist, which we see in John 1:19 through 25.
And that did not end well.
Yeah. And of
John the
Jesus early in his ministry in John 2:18 through 22. Here are the references to the cleansing of the temple, which not only defied the authority of the Jewish leaders, but also hurt their monetary profits. The leaders may also have been looking for a way to discredit Jesus in the eyes of the people or raise suspicion of him as a threat to the authority of Rome.
I'd say it's probably that. Like when I'm pretty sure they're just trying to discredit him somehow. So they're like, "Hey, who said you could do this? Nobody? Yeah, that's what I thought." Yeah. So I will also ask you a question. Now tell me, was the baptism of John from heaven or from man? And they discussed it one with another, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why did you not believe him?' But if we say from man, all the people will stone us to death, for they are convinced that John was a prophet." So, but I'm still confused as to why, why they were like, why didn't they say you answer our question first? Like, we asked you first. This happens a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
So they answered that they did not know where it came from, and Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." So,
Ooh.
I guess, right? Because,
Antagonizing.
okay then, man, that's what a way of debate.
All right. Well, they came to him with like this rhetorical challenge where there's like only a yes or a no.
Well, they said, "Who gave you this authority?"
And when they talk about, oh, right. That's what he's doing. He's giving them the option to either say yes or no, as for John, right?
Yeah. Well, also,
But also, it's like...
it's also a false dichotomy by Jesus.
Right, it is a false dichotomy, but also... he's making a point here.
Yeah,
right?
obviously.
When they ask who gave you this authority, he says like, "Oh, well, John's baptism, was it from heaven or from men?" Right? Well, the implication is that when they ask who gave you this authority, they're referring to some kind of legalistic human government structure, probably from the Sanhedrin or from Rome, right? And by responding this way, he makes the implication that he has his authority from heaven, even though their interpretation of it is just to be confused. The implication is still there.
Yeah. All right, let's continue on here. And he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard and let it out to tenants and went into another country for a long while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. I think we had this story before, didn't we?
Have.
Yeah, in a different gospel.
Yeah.
Except, was he going to get fruit? I don't think he was going to get fruit in that gospel. I think he was just going to get money and they wouldn't pay.
I mean, the fruit of the vineyard is the resulting gains from the vineyard.
I guess, yeah. I suppose.
At the end of the day, he's going to sell the fruit.
Sure, yeah.
So.
But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent another servant. But they also beat and treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third. This one also they wounded and cast out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, what shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him. But when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, this is the heir. Let us kill him so that the inheritance may be ours. Is that how inheritance worked?
Yeah, as the hired workers, if there's no next of kin, right, they would be the inheritors of the estate.
Well, these were...
Which we've established before when we covered the story another time. Now, they are... tenants.
Yeah,
right?
they're tenants.
They're
yeah,
tenants, not workers, but they function on the land. So according to the law, they would be rightful inheritors of the land if everyone else died and there was no claim to it because they live there.
I suppose. Yeah. And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, surely not. But he looked directly at them and said, what then is this that is written? This quote, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone.
So this is Psalm 118:22.
Yes. And then he goes on to say, everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces. And when it falls on anyone, it will crush him.
Yeah. Moreover, Psalm 118 is part of the Hallel, Hebrew for praise psalms, and it's associated with festivals in rabbinic literature, which of course would be relevant during this time, given that they're in Passover, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. All right. So yeah, we got I don't remember if we had the quotation in this, but I think the actual thing that they were getting, the thing that the servant was supposed to get was payment, right? In like direct payment. So like I understand how fruit could have two meanings, but I think it was payment in the earlier gospel, right? Direct money.
It might have been.
Okay, I don't remember. All right. Anyways, I mean, I might be wrong about that. I could be misremembering the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, you know me and my memory.
Yep, your photographic memory.
Yep. All right. Continuing on here. The scribes and the chief priests sought to lay hands on him at that very hour, for they perceived that he had told this parable against them, but they feared the people. Mm-hmm. So they're just fearing what the people will do.
Yeah, I mean, he's beloved by the masses.
I suppose, yeah. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be sincere, that they might catch him in something he said, so as to deliver him up to the authority and jurisdiction of the government.
Yeah, fearing to take action themselves, the Jewish religious leaders hoped to draw from Jesus some statement that would bring action from Roman officials and remove him from contact with the people. I guess by doing so, they would avoid being blamed by the people, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, no, it's the Romans.
Yeah, not only that, but like here's this legal precedent too. Like we caught him, guys, red-handed. Mm-hmm. So they asked him, "Teacher, we know that you speak and teach rightly and show no partiality, but truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not?" Mm-hmm. But he perceived this craftiness and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have?"
So to agree to the taxes demanded by Caesar would disappoint the people, but to advise no payment would disturb the Roman officials. The questioners hoped to trap Jesus with this dilemma.
Yeah, so he's just like, yeah, give it to them. It's his. Got his face and likeness on it and his name and everything.
Also, again, one denarius,
day's
single
wage.
day's wages.
Yeah.
That's your tax. It's not
Well,
like
I mean,
that. There are people out there who are paying like 40% of their income in taxes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
That I mean, I think because I forget what it's called. It's called like a utility function or something, right? Depending on who you are.
Right.
But like it still does like suck for 40%.
I mean, you have diminishing marginal utility, right?
Yeah,
From the money that you're getting, but still, I'm sure they would much rather pay one day's wages.
Yeah, right. They would much rather do that. Like if I'm paying one day's wages, it's different than if like some fat cat is doing that.
Yeah, can you imagine the people of this time who are complaining so much about this tax having to pay 40% of their yearly income?
And
there would be riots.
Not even that, but like it. Yeah, depending on who's paying that, right? So like these really not like super rich people giving up quite a bit for it. I wonder how much Caesar himself pays in taxes. No, okay.
Caesar
probably did not.
probably
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, if anything, he would receive payment from so it would
Probably
be
would,
like
yeah.
moot.
Yeah. That was a joke because the whole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get it. So let's continue on here. Yeah, they're trying to get him with this, but he has a way around it. They say, Caesar's. He said to them, then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And they were not able in the presence of the people to catch him in what he said, but marveling at this answer, they became silent. Yeah, they had nothing to say about that because they're like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, they thought they trapped him,
But they didn't.
And this was already like a political hot button issue.
I'm sure,
So,
yeah.
Like astonishing that nobody had come up with this before.
All right, let's continue on here. Looks like we're at verse 27. There came to him some Sadducees.
Yes, the Sadducees.
Yeah, that's a whole other
an
group.
aristocratic, politically minded group willing to compromise with secular and pagan leaders. They controlled the high priesthood at this time and held the majority of the seats in the Sanhedrin. They did not believe in the resurrection or an afterlife, and they rejected oral tradition taught by the Pharisees. So these are not Talmudic Jews.
No. So Josephus does have a pretty long description of them. But they were another fairly popular group, I would say. Mm-hmm. Popular sect.
Well, maybe even the most popular, given that they hold the majority of seats in the Sanhedrin at this time.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, continuing on here. Those who deny that there is a resurrection. That's like an identification of them. And they asked him a question saying, Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, having a wife but no children, the man must take the widow and raise up offspring for his brother.
We've had this before.
We have. Now there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife and died without children, and the second and the third took her. And likewise, all 7 left no children and died. Afterward, the woman also died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will the woman be? For the 7 had her as wife. So once everybody dies, like, who is going to receive the wife?
Right, within the resurrection.
Yeah, and the wife is going to be I don't know if it's stand for the salvation, right?
Mm-hmm. So the Sadducees, they're an elite Jerusalem-based party.
What is weird to me is why are the Sadducees arguing as if this resurrection thing would be the same legal case?
It's meant to be like ironic, right? They're mocking the idea of a resurrection, which is clearly important to Jesus.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
So,
but like that's not even like a good. That's not like a good. Not a gotcha, but like a That's not even like a good mockery.
Well, not only are they engaging in mockery of the concept of resurrection because they think of women as property that are owned by their husbands.
Sure.
Even though in Tibetan culture, a woman is married into a household. So
Wow.
her husband is all
Whoever
the men of the
houses.
household.
Oh my god.
Okay.
All right then.
But moreover, with this, there is probably some rule regarding levirate marriage. And this is probably another attempt at some kind of legalistic gotcha.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So here it says, okay, they deny the resurrection. Either they rejected the idea of the resurrection or perhaps deny that it could be found in the Torah.
What I'm wondering is, what's their answer to that question?
Everything.
I guess it'd be nobody's. Like nobody would.
No, nobody, because there's no resurrection.
Yeah.
Right. As for raising up children, levirate marriage designed to protect widows and preserve the dead husband's name and estate. The rules are given in Deuteronomy 25, verses 5 through 10. So that is all there is to that.
All right. And Jesus said to them, "The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy to attain to that age and to the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage, for they cannot die anymore, because they are equal to angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection."
Okay.
That's pretty huge, though.
Hold on. Hold on. There is details in Eerdmans about the Sadducees here.
Okay.
So the Sadducees refer to Torah legislation concerning levirate marriage, Deuteronomy 25, 5 through 10. Rather than belief in the immortality of the soul or the resurrection of the body, this practice assumes that people live on in their descendants. When a man died, his brother was obligated to have a child with his widow, and the child would take the deceased brother's name. The Sadducees construct a scenario in which 7 brothers have sex with the same woman who remains childless. Against the doctrine of the resurrection, they ask whose wife would then be after all of them had been raised. Along with many others in ancient Greco-Roman society, Christians had internal disputes about the value of marriage and having children. The Lucan verses in which Jesus responds to the Sadducees emphasize sexual asceticism even more strongly than had Paul. The verbs are in the present tense, denoting continuous action. Those who belong to this age are marrying and are being given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of a place in yada, yada, yada. Paul teaches that they should not marry unless there is no resurrection for you. Otherwise, there's no resurrection for you unless you remain chaste and do not defile the flesh, but keep it pure. The pair of verbs in LUK, marrying and being given in marriage, and the second one, gamizo, which is quite rare, also occurs in 1 Corinthians 7:38, where Paul insists that marriage is not a sin. Paul's insistence that marriage is not a sin may be set over against the way some Corinthians were applying this very Jesus saying. The Lucan saying and the one from the Acts of Paul and Thecla demand
the Acts of Paul and Thecla. We're going to have to read that eventually.
Yeah. Demand a sexually ascetic lifestyle, whereas Paul, despite his ascetic preference, affirmed that each has a particular gift from God. Right? So There are some details here. This has been an issue for Christians, even going past the time of Jesus.
Yeah,
right?
I did want to mention here really quickly this whole they can no longer die and they're equal to angels thing. So what do these statements attributed to Jesus originally mean? Which, by the way, the Bovon, I guess, he interprets these as editorials on Luke's part, like they're slight reinterpretations of things that he had already heard, I guess. So what do they originally mean? They take over the Jewish contrast between the two eons, this time and that time. Yet they do not necessarily understand these eras as successive periods, nor do they understand them in a timeless manner as the designation of two domains, of two concurrent reigns of two spaces rather than two times. I would suggest that in keeping with the eschatology, one can attribute to the historical Jesus and a number of early Christians. These statements speak of two periods that partly overlap. That time has already begun in this time. Luke cross-reference Luke 16:8. In support of this hypothesis, I can cite the grammatical time, the present. Okay, so yeah, it's the present indicative. So it's just like I do X, I make X, whatever.
Right.
Of all the main verbs of verses 34 through 36, I also note that in spite of the precise details in, quote, when they rise from the dead in Mark and in the resurrection, Matthew, the tradition retained by Mark and then by Matthew does not necessarily suggest two successive periods because the present indicative is used here as well. There's also something called the historical present, because sometimes they would change. So sometimes they would use like an aorist word to even though that's a past tense verb. They would use it to mean something it should be read as present, but sometimes they would do it the other way. The opposite way.
Yeah, sometimes
well.
they do it the opposite way.
Yes.
So it says here, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage, and they can no longer die, for they are like the angels; they are God's children. Right?
Yeah.
Now, a couple of things here. First of all, angels were assumed not to die. And this saying of Jesus, this is from Eerdmans, affirms that those worthy of resurrection from the dead are like the angels also in this respect, that they do not die. A theological assertion that is radically different from that of Paul. See Romans 6:3-11, 1 Corinthians 4:8-9, 2 Corinthians 4:7-12. But like some Deutero-Pauline baptismal texts, and as in Ephesians.
Okay.
But also here, where it says like angels, another way to interpret this from the Jewish annotated New Testament is that they have no need to procreate. Because the Talmud states, in the world to come, there is not eating and drinking or marrying or envy or hate, but the pious rest with crowns upon their heads and are satisfied with the glory of God.
Yeah, it's just literally supposed to be like World 2.0.
Yeah.
With everything being so much better, apparently.
So, like, the concept of this woman being given in marriage or being married to any of these men is irrelevant because, as you know, marriage is not for love, it's for reproduction. And that is the sole purpose of marriage within the society, right? It's for sexual morality when it comes to the act of reproduction. They regulate it so that you can't spill your seed in a way that doesn't lead to reproduction, right? So, like, the consequence of this is that since she can't reproduce after being resurrected, the concept of marriage does not apply to her.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. And it looks, it is interesting. So, the two words that are used here for like marry and given in marriage in verse 34, those are both the only verbs in the sentence or in this entire section that are given in the present indicative, which is interesting because the rest of them are aorists. They are future tense. Sorry, not future, past tense with the ed, punctiliar.
Okay.
Past.
All right. Well, why don't you continue reading? We've said a lot about
some words. All right, so I will continue on there.
What verse do you
given
want?
in marriage? I think I just finished verse 35, right?
All right.
No, sorry. I finished verse 36.
Yeah, because they're like the angels.
Being sons of God. Yeah, being sons of the resurrection. But that the dead are raised, even Moses showed in the passage about the bush where he calls the Lord the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Now, he is not God of the dead, but of the living, for all live to him. Then some of the scribes answered, "Teacher, you have spoken well," for they no longer dared to ask him any questions. All questions have been satisfied.
Wow.
But he said to them, well, no, that was a different, he didn't say but. But he said to them, "How can they say that the Christ is David's son? For David himself says in the book of Psalms, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool.' David thus calls him Lord, so how is he his son?" Well, wasn't he calling himself Lord?
Yeah, that was a reference to himself. The citation of Psalm 110, verse 1, early Christian writings, but not Jewish ones, frequently cite this in reference to the Messiah.
Yeah, that would really make sense, honestly.
Now, how can he be his son? The psalm depicts God, the Lord, speaking to a Davidic king, my Lord. In the superscription, it's described as a psalm of David. So, yes, this is talking about himself. There's just conflation of the term Lord, which is a logical fallacy that Jesus commits here, conflation of terminology. There's probably a name for that.
Is it just equivocation?
Yeah, it could be.
And in the hearing of all the people, he said to his disciples, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and love greetings in the marketplace." Aww. And they love greetings in the marketplace.
They're socialites.
Yeah, horrible. And the best seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at feasts, who devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. So they will receive the greater condemnation. So it looks like it sounds like they're in it for themselves.
And a couple things here. First of all, devouring widows' houses. They take advantage of the defenseless groups by fraud and schemes for selfish gain.
Rude.
Right. But also, they make these long prayers. Obviously, they're not the most genuine prayers. They just do it for clout.
Yeah.
What his point here is that the way that they dress, the actions that they commit, the way that they present themselves, their entire public image is presented for the sole purpose of clout. They're not doing it for any kind of religious rigor. There's nothing holy about them.
Yeah. Essentially, that's what we get described in Psalms.
Yeah. But that is that the end?
That is the end of the chapter.
Wow! If you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, neighbors. But Lawrence, do you hear something?
I do hear something.
I hear it too.
Oh, I hear it.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Oh my God, Jesus, you scared me. You've been here every week, but for some reason, I have absolutely no idea why. I just don't expect it. I don't expect it. I don't know. But once again, it seems you've taken Reuben, my one and only co-host, away from me. Yeah. No, there's nobody else working on this show. The disembodied voice is it's something else entirely. Thank you, disembodied voice. Thank you. This next section. So here, I think you got a widow coming up of some sort. Looks like this is an example for something. I'm sure it is, right? Everything is an example for something here. So after controversies, parables, questions, and warnings, here is a narrative episode that ends in a double saying of Jesus, a long apocalyptic discourse, a parable that of a fig tree which promises fruit, and a final warning follow the episode of the widow. And oh my God!
Mein Gott! Was ist das?
Where did you go?
Where do you think I went?
You to heaven.
No.
Bathroom.
I went to visit the Sadducees.
Oh, you went to visit the Sadducees. All right. So what did you learn anything from them?
Yeah, I learned that there's no resurrection.
Nice. That is that's some good wisdom from.
In fact, you know what? They probably agree with Jesus on a lot of things. To be frank.
Yeah.
They're Torah people, right? They're not like
yeah.
Adding things on the law like you see in the Talmud, right?
Right, yeah.
Which is like Jesus' whole complaint against the Pharisees.
Right, yeah. And you know what? Jesus has a good point about those Pharisees.
Yeah. Unfortunately, modern Judaism is really an extension of the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why we have this whole Talmudic tract, which eventually you're going to have to read the whole thing, Lawrence, in Hebrew.
In Hebrew.
Or Aramaic. Or whatever it's written in.
Yeah, but either way, I don't think I want to do that. It's like ever.
I've read some of it.
Yeah, some of it is okay. No, actually, no, it isn't. So even some of it is painful to get
It's
through.
broken down into two parts, right? You have the Mishnah Torah, right? The oral tradition of the law. And then you have the Gemara, which can be construed as commentaries on the Mishnah and the Torah, right? It basically is because it's legal decisions.
It's commentaries on commentaries.
And what's the commentary about it?
Well,
Well-
and while I like commentaries, like, are you serious, guys? Like,
Well, they go into quite some depth.
I know
about
that
some
they
things,
do.
but like so much depth that it's ridiculous. Like I read a portion where it was just like, who's responsible for paying the damages if like you have an apartment where there's a ground floor and a top floor, and the ceiling of the ground floor collapses so that the top floor and the bottom floor are connected. So how do you settle the dispute? And you have all these different arguments. Some people are like, well, the guy who lives in the top floor obviously can't live in there while it's being repaired. So the owner who lives in the bottom floor has to allow the person who lives in the top floor to stay in the bottom floor for the duration of the repairs, while the person who lives in the top floor is responsible for the cost of the repair. Like, it goes on like that.
yeah,
Yay.
yeah. That's great. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Literal legalese.
Need to read.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like, the regular legalese. Why would I like ancient Jewish legalese?
Because you love Deuteronomy.
I don't. I love Deuteronomy.
Yeah, you do.
I loved.
You're in love with it.
I will.
You're
Shit.
getting married to it
Oh, thank you.
legally.
Wow.
Wow.
I'll
I'm
be
sure
there.
it would know about.
I'll be in the audience.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you.
I'll
Will
help
you
you
be
pick
there?
out your dress.
Will you be there for me when the rain starts to pour? Like you've been there before?
This is something we don't know.
Am I making a reference to something you don't know?
I'll be there for you.
Oh,
Thank you.
remember all.
I'll be there for you too.
Yeah. There you go. Anyways, chapter 21. Lots of Jesus speech in this one.
Yeah.
So I have to do the voice for the red text. And he looked up and saw the rich men casting their gifts into the treasury. Ugh, disgusting gifts. And he saw also a certain poor widow casting in thither 2 mites, very small currency.
Two leptas, I guess.
Yeah, it's like pennies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, of a truth I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast in more than they all. For all these have their abundance cast in unto the offerings of God, but she of her penury hath cast in all the living that she had.
Wow. She had like actually nothing. Yeah, she was destitute. So in the last 20 years, two diametrically opposed interpretations have been proposed. According to the first, older interpretation, Jesus compares the widow to the rich people, then praises her. According to the second, modern interpretation, Jesus compares the widow to the scribes of the previous pericope, and in the form of a lament underscores the degree to which she has been religiously exploited. Interesting one. The alternative is the following question. Is the poor woman blessed, or is woe pronounced on the temple's wealthy exploiters? It could be both, honestly. Actually, no. I guess I do see what they're saying, because like neither of them is really explicit. But that is interesting.
Yeah. And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, As for these things which ye behold, the days will come in the which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down.
Yeah, so back to...
The temple will be destroyed.
Yeah.
Moreover, let me tell you one thing here. How the temple was adorned. One stone at the southwest corner was some 36 feet long.
That's huge.
Josephus says that whatever was not overlaid with gold was purest white. Herod gave a golden vine for one of its decorations. Its grape clusters were as tall as a man. The full magnificence of the temple, as elaborated and adorned by Herod, has only recently come to light through archaeological investigations on the Temple Hill.
Okay.
So, this place was sick, man. And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near.
Yeah,
Go
so that
ye
of
not
course,
therefore after them.
That, of course, kind of references the Tetragrammaton, right? Where he's like, I am. You get a whole bunch of I am sayings in John, but yeah, it calls back to the burning bush thing. I am that I am.
You know about Shabbatai Tzvi?
What?
Shabbatai Tzvi?
No.
So this was a guy long after the time of Jesus who made a claim to messiahship.
Of course, yeah. Classic.
Yeah, and he was like a Torah scholar, rabbi, right? And this Kabbalist was convinced that because of the gematria of his name, that Shabbatai Tzvi was the Messiah. Now, he started claiming that he was getting messages from God, and he started reinterpreting some prayers. So there's one where, like, if you interpret it one way, it's like forgive those who sin or something. And if you interpret it another way with a different vowel, it's like praise those who sin.
Okay, nice,
something
nice.
like that. So he would do things like go to temples and like eat pork and then say this prayer with his pronunciation of it.
Oh, that's funny.
It's like, yeah, this is just the correct way to do it. Eventually, he converted to Islam under threat of death by the king of the area that he was in.
Wow.
Okay.
But his followers still believed that he was the Jewish Messiah.
Right.
After he converted to Islam.
Right. That I could only imagine how that would have caused.
That's so weird.
All of it would have caused so much more discord than was already around.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it could not have been.
Yeah, during the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Well, thank
Shabbatai
you.
Tzvi. You should look into him.
I will.
It's pretty funny.
I will look into them. That does sound pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Anyways, But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified. For these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall be there from heaven. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you, and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake.
So these are the big list of signs, right? And I think I went over. Oh, I feel like I've went over a lot of these in videos before. I feel like when I was doing the stuff on it was a part of the Four Horsemen section in my Revelation video. That's where I talked about these signs, I think. I don't know if I referenced this specific verse or if I referenced a different gospel, but I did reference the signs.
Yeah, and it's strange. Jesus talks about how there's going to be all these wars and destruction and everything. Now, in different parts of the Tanakh, you get details like...
Yeah, in Matthew, they say that about every single lunar eclipse. Every single lunar eclipse, every single solar eclipse, doesn't matter. Like, I have seen people go off about it being like a sign of the end times.
Yeah, but this lunar eclipse is in Scorpio.
I hate you. It's been happening for centuries now. So, like... they're gonna have to give me something better than that.
Yeah. But as I was saying, he talks about how there's gonna be wars and all this destruction and everything. Now, if you look at different parts of the Tanakh about what's gonna happen leading up to the return of the Messiah and the day of Yahweh, you get details such as every nation will turn to the Jews for spiritual guidance. Everyone will beat their swords into plowshares, right? Literally the end of all wars and like destruction, and everyone's getting along.
That will be the end time,
Right?
But then you have to ask.
Jesus is talking about.
But just to be clear, then you have to ask, like, well, is that a result of the end time, or is that
this happens,
necessary condition?
This
for
happens
the end time?
prior to the appearance of the Messiah, right?
No, it would happen prior to the day of Yahweh.
Right,
which could be different entirely.
Well, it depends on how you interpret it.
That is true,
right?
yeah.
Because the Jewish scriptures don't really go into detail about it.
Yeah, they don't. They wouldn't have to. They just had a day of Yahweh.
They have a day of Yahweh.
They had a judgment day.
And they have a theoretical Messiah. The term HaMashiach, the Messiah, doesn't really appear. It's used mainly to talk about like high priests.
Or a new king.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
But there is this particular Messiah of the Davidic line who comes along at the time of the day of Yahweh. And that's all really the details that we get about it, right? So this could happen immediately prior as a result of the necessary conditions being met. And in fact, in the Talmud, this is one interpretation that's put forward, is that there's some midrash, I think, which is told about this rabbi who he speaks to Elijah and is like, Elijah, can you show me the Messiah? And he's like, oh yeah, here, let me show you this guy. And he's like, oh, why haven't you come yet? And he's like, well, I'm coming on the next day, right? And the next day comes along and the Messiah doesn't come. And he goes to Elijah and he's like, hey man, this guy said that he was coming. So what's the deal? And he's like, well, actually, he's referring to this one psalm where it says, the day will come when like all these necessary preconditions are met, and then he appears and the day of Yahweh comes, right? So according to some rabbinic traditions, yes, the beating the swords into plowshares, the like world peace and everything is a necessary precondition for the appearance of the Messiah, which is contradictory to the details that are given here by Jesus. I mean, I can only assume that.
He would have taken a different view of that then.
Yeah. But anyways, let me continue on. He's talking about all this terrible stuff that's going to happen, and they're going to persecute the Christians. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But there shall not a hair of your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereunto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon. Lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring.
Like, here's the thing: if you don't have like an understanding of how that stuff works, especially in the past, yeah, it would make sense where you'd think these are huge, fucking amazing events that have like more weight to them than just like these are just the physical circumstances of being in a shadow.
Yo, check out this shadow.
Look at this really cool shadow, guys.
Well, you got to keep in mind that according to their model, the earth is flat, and like the sun and moon are going through windows in heaven and being carried along by chariots.
At this point in time, a good chunk of the world already knew that the earth was round.
Okay, a good chunk of the world knows that the earth is round right now, but you still have the flat earthers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're like, it's almost nobody percentage-wise, but they do still exist.
At this time, it would probably be a larger percentage of people, especially when like details about the curvature of the earth were being discovered by the Greeks, and that would have been held in high esteem by the Romans and the people.
I guess they wouldn't have liked that.
Yeah, the people of Judea, they're not fans of the Greeks or the Romans, as Maccabees and the New Testament make clear.
Yeah.
Anyways. And upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when those things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So we're about to get into another parable, but this is Jesus' prediction about the end times.
All right, fantastic.
What we just covered. Like, these are the details. And he is speaking to his followers, not to theoretical readers of a book later on in history. They fully expected that this day of Yahweh would be coming within their lifetime. And this was the expectation of early Jewish Christians.
It was the expectation of everybody.
Yeah.
Like all the time, every single generation, there will be people who are like, it's going to come in my lifetime. And then it just didn't, like ever.
Yeah. Well, this is partly why the early Jewish Christians are not the Christians that pop up in like the 2nd century.
Yeah.
Right? You have the Gentile Christians who start to pop up after that point, because those who actually like followed Judaism and understood the the scriptures and like lived by the laws and everything. Like they understood that the predictions that Jesus made were specific and did not come to pass, which makes him a false prophet deserving of death, according to the Torah.
But he came back. He came back to life though. So
He cheated.
Which,
cheated,
by the way, is not a prediction about
No, it isn't.
Messiah.
it isn't. It is extraordinary, I would say.
Yeah, it would be extraordinary. But then again, Jesus himself says that false prophets will do great miracles.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And he also bestowed the ability to do miraculous things to his disciples.
Right. And it's not like you even have to be a follower of Yahweh or a holy person to do magic.
Well, yeah, because like Moses, when he was he was with the Pharaoh and with all of his magicians and whatnot, they were all doing actual fucking magic.
Right. And afterwards, you have like the Witch of Endor.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, let's continue on here. And he spake to them a parable. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees.
Why are you pointing at me when you said the fig tree? Huh?
Because you're a fig tree.
Wow. Oh my God.
Whole time.
He says here, behold the fig tree and all the trees.
Yeah.
Why specify the fig tree then?
It's important.
I don't know, man.
Maybe it's like that argumentative form that's used where it's like, if this, then so much more this.
Yeah, that did happen a lot.
Yeah.
Especially in Greek.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, the fig tree and all the trees, when they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. So likewise, ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand. Verily I say unto you, catchphrase, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled.
Yep.
There you go. This is exactly why there are not many Jewish Christians past the 1st century.
Yeah. Because they're like, yeah, we didn't get that yet.
Yeah. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with
What?
What?
surfeiting.
Which verse? Sorry, this is
In verse 34.
34. Okay.
What the hell is surfeiting?
That's an interesting word there. 34. Take heed.
Surfeit, an excessive amount of something.
Okay, so take heed to yourselves that your hearts not be weighed down with drunkenness, intoxication, and earthly cares, that day not come upon you unexpectedly.
Yeah, so here it says, take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, so that when the day comes upon you.
So like any kind of like excessiveness, okay.
Yeah. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man.
Yeah, so these 3 verses belong to that moral teaching of Jesus for which there is no synoptic parallel. It would be misleading simply to emphasize the ethical character of this material and without reservation to approximate it to the moral philosophy of an Epictetus. The counsel and the commandments that these phrases contain are designed neither to ensure calm happiness nor to promote the development of the soul. Rather, they are to prepare the hearers for a decisive future of which no one knows the time when it will take place. But apparently it's coming kind of soon, but like you don't know exactly when.
Yeah, now let me note something here. Luke's final exhortation warns against being weighed down weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of this life. Peter, James, and John had been weighed down with sleep, a popular metaphor in such exhortations during the Transfiguration.
Yeah. Like, especially like right before that.
Mm-hmm. Drunkenness, too, is a metaphor for those not preparing for the coming of the Son of Humanity. Luke has cautioned before about the worries of this life, including the worry about how to defend themselves in synagogues and before civil authorities. This is the concern of the second half of Acts. Our author wants them instead to pray that they may escape the eschatological dissolution and stand before the Son of Humanity. So, there's a couple more verses here. Let me finish this off. And in the day, time, he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to hear him in the temple, for to hear him. And that is the end of chapter 21. Now, next week, I believe we're going to be finishing Luke. Because there's 24 chapters.
Yes, we are. We're going to be finishing Luke next week.
Goody.
Yes. Now,
And then we can get started with John.
Yay.
But it is going to be different because John is not a synoptic gospel. So
right.
it is different.
Cool.
We also have something very interesting in verse 3 of chapter 22, which we'll get into.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to love to talk about that. I did a video on that part. So if you got, well, not on specifically that part, but the whole Judas thing in general.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to get, I don't know, like a preview or something, you can go watch that video.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed the stream.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. Let's see. At the beginning of every month, the first Sunday of every month, we give away a T-shirt to a patron. So if you are a patron of $10 or more, you get entered into a monthly T-shirt giveaway. So you can go ahead and join the Patreon for that. You can also be on the show. You can get our video scripts. You can do hangouts with us. It's a good time to have. We would like more people to join those.
And you know what? If you don't want to be entered into a giveaway, you can click the merchandise that is
Pick a good one.
currently being pinned. And I'm not just buying time.
I like the nothing new one. Nothing new under the sun. I like that one a lot.
You can click that.
Yeah.
Buy the T-shirt.
Yeah, you can get that one. It's a good one.
Wear it around town. Show it off. They're very popular with the ladies.
Yeah, all the ladies are gonna know about Milwaukee Atheists and their T-shirts.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, guys, come on. Like, how could you not?
I'm not saying as part of an advertising campaign that wearing this shirt will get you laid, but
I am insinuating it. I am suggesting it.
yeah. What else? We have an Amazon wish list.
We do have an Amazon wish list. Link is in the description. A lot of books on there that we will read on the show or read as sources for another video.
And thank you, Carlos,
for the $4.99. That is huge.
Yeah, that is.
Our chat is crazed.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is another way that you can support the show is by sending super chats in. We always appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely, we do. And
thank you, Ellis.
Wow. With the $19.99, Ellis is crazed.
And that was a good year. Good year.
Was it a good year?
Yeah, sure.
I liked
it was good enough.
I like some of the a lot of the songs that came out that year.
Sure.
I didn't like a lot of the songs that came out that year.
Running in the 90s came out that year.
Yeah. There wasn't like Britney Spears a thing.
I think so.
99.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I have no idea, man. Like my entire
was Bowling for Soup around by then?
No way.
They might be Giants.
Also, I don't think so.
Guns N' Roses.
Well, yeah, but they had done their stuff
earlier. We were still
earlier.
waiting for Chinese democracy, weren't we?
Yeah, we were just, waiting on bated breath for Chinese democracy.
Yeah. Duke Nukem forever.
Surely there were good games in that era.
Oh, yeah. 1999. I mean, I think the N64 came out around then, didn't it?
I don't remember that.
no. Wait, Pokemon No came out in 96, right? Or was it in 99?
No, it was 96, wasn't it?
I want to say it was 96.
It might have been 96 in Japan.
Now I got to look it up because like I feel like I definitely Googled this before, but I just don't remember. So was it 99 or 96? Yeah, it was 96. I was right. 96. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, thank you for all the support, guys. Very much appreciated.
Just passed another 666, actually.
That's great, but we
Not that it
didn't
fucking
have a
matters, but hey,
drive
I did
though.
it.
We're
You're at
gonna
679.
eventually do alchemy and use the thetan meter.
We do have the thetan meter, which is good. I'm glad that we picked that up because like how many
people have a thetan?
How many
meter?
people have a thetan meter?
Not enough.
Probably too many actually.
To be fair, the thetan meter did literally cost the entire 666.
It did actually.
It was expensive as fuck.
Yeah, but we did get the thetan meter surprisingly.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, L. Ron Hubbard,
for making it so expensive because he manipulates the market on that even in death. So
yeah, L. Ron Hubbard engages in post-mortem market manipulation.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
I hope that the Church of Scientology doesn't sue us because I just said
they
that.
They fucking might.
Wow.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Yeah.
In Minecraft.
It's been said. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining us. All links to everything are in the description. Facebook and Twitter. Free to follow us on those platforms.
Free to follow us in real life if we're like walking around.
It is free to follow us.
We would prefer you not to.
Right, but it's free.
It's free.
So it's also free to not. So
yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining us. And we will see you on Friday. More Apocalypse of Moses.